Okay, so I'm continuing my reviews on bad movies. Oh, gee. So I can review good movies better. You know what I mean? Like, you need to see a bad movie to appreciate a good movie every once in a while. So today we're talking about X-Men Origins Wolverine. I chose this one because Logan just came out. I feel like it's kind of relevant, and because I own it, so it's just easier that way. So, yeah, let's get into it. So if you don't know who Wolverine is and X-Men is, you've probably been living under a rock. So you all know the story, you all know who Wolverine is. It's basically just his origin story, kind of where he came from, how he got his metal claws, and just kind of a little backstory on him. The movie it deals with him and his brother, but that's about it. So let's talk about a few good things first. Around the end of the movie, there was an interesting part where I'm like, oh look, they actually did something that was, a nice twist. It was interesting. Maybe get a little bit of emotion here or something. And it was kind of it was like a scene or two that was like, okay, this isn't terrible. There was a little action scene that was like, okay, and there are things in the movie where it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's kind of stupid, but it's cool. Like the cliche where the thing blows up and the guy walks away, doesn't look behind it. It's like, it's stupid, but ooh, look, pretty explosions. Explosions are cool, right? And tanks blowing stuff up. There's every once in a while it's like, oh, that's neat, but I don't know, nothing that's actually interesting about the story or anything. So, yeah, that's all the good things I have to say about it. Now the bad things. Ooh, this movie, the story itself wasn't terrible. It was, I think, we'll get into the story in a minute, but it was made. It was just okay. So the editing. Sometimes I act like I'm like, oh yes, the editing was real good there. Ooh. But for most of the time, you don't really notice editing in Hollywood movies because they're just all good enough, Because if you're working in Hollywood as an editor, you know how to make it flow right and have people not notice the edits. That's kind of what an editor does. But this movie, the editing was so weird. Like, there was, like, when he's putting in when they're getting the the metal into his bones and stuff, that whole scene was just like, with they were like editing in like flashback things, and it was just weird. And then this awful shot where he's laying there, and then you get this outline of his old girlfriend in the same shot, and it's like, what are you doing? It's just a lot of weird things like that. And then there were just times you're watching and it's just like edited so weird, like it just like cut, and it's like, it was just, I can't explain it, it's just awkward, it didn't flow right. So yeah. And then the dialogue in this movie is pretty awful. Every time someone's talking, I feel like, I'm like, no one talks like that. They don't, it feels so cheesy. It feels like something from WWE at times, And it's just like, no one would talk like that. No one speaks like that. And they're trying to be cool, like James Bond, do like funny quips and one-liners and stuff, but none of them were funny. The movie tried to be funny, it was never funny. I think I might have done that like once, but other than that, it was just terrible dialogue. And the acting, even Hugh Jackman, I didn't think was even very good. I feel like he was just kind of like, this is dumb. I'm just not gonna even try. I'm just gonna get my paycheck and go home. But I still like him as Wolverine. I mean, he's the only Wolverine there is. If they ever try and remake X-Men with another Wolverine, there will be riots in the street. But yeah, all the acting was terrible, terrible. And oh my gosh, the effects in this movie are some of the worst effects I've seen from this last decade, I guess. This movie didn't even come out, not even 10 years ago. It was like, what would it be, like 8 years now or something? And I don't know when it came out, but whatever. Not even 10 years ago, I know. It was like 2008, 2009. And these effects look like something that maybe should have come out in the early 90s. Like, I always heard they're bad. I'm like, they can't be that bad. And they're awful, awful, awful CGI. Whoa. And then all the action scenes are just shot all terribly. Like, I've seen worse though. I'll give it that. It's not the worst filming I've seen, but it's all. There's some parts aren't too bad, but there's really shaky cam, and they're just cutting all over the place. You can't see really what's happening. And it just, the action, so none of the action scenes were even fun to watch, because it was just kind of like, what are you doing there? So now let's get into the story, the meat and potatoes of the movies. You know, why we go see movies, stories. I have to say, it's comprehensible. Like, you can at least follow what's happening. Some movie, it wasn't trying to be too complicated and too, like, a million plot lines going on. Like, you can understand what's going on. Wolverine, his brother killed his girlfriend, or probably girlfriend, and he's like, I want revenge, I'm gonna kill him. And then these government people are like, but yo, Wolverine, we're gonna make you into this weapon. But he escapes, so now we gotta get you. So you can at least understand what's going on. Unlike some movies I've seen in the past couple of years, it's like, what's happening? Just pick a plot. But, so I'll give it that. But, it is kind of, I feel like it is just kind of going through, like, the motions. It's like, not really trying too hard. They're just like, okay, here's some revenge story, and we'll make sure we get the adamantium claws and memory lost at the end, and a quick backstory. Make sure we get those in, and then the rest it can just be, I don't care what happens. He just gets revenge, something along those lines. So it wasn't really too interesting, and the character of Wolverine I find is an interesting character. I like Wolverine and whatnot, but this movie brings nothing new to the table for him. He's just kind of there again. It's not like and it's just kind of a backstory that we already know. So, really no character development, really nothing. I mean, it's kind of, I guess, spoiler alert, but who cares? At the end, he loses his memory anyways, so he can't even really, he can't even change as a person, really. He just is now starting over. So what was the whole point in the movie? Gosh. And I feel like the movie could have been, they could have done a better backstory to Wolverine. Like, the whole opening sequence where he's fighting in all those wars, that would have been a better movie than this. You know? And there's no tension in the movie, there's no emotion. It's just kind of, things happen and you watch and you're like, okay. And then the end, it's okay. Like, we have random people we don't even know running around trying to escape, and it's like, we don't even know who any of these people are. Why should I care? They don't focus too much on that, thank goodness. But and then they're just like, well, we need a big final action scene, and let's just put Deadpool in there. There we go. Action scene. It really has no point in the movie other than we need a big finale. And at least they tried to have a finale, because if it didn't, then it would just be like, well, now what? So, but it was just kind of there for the sake of having a finale. It wasn't, the movie wasn't leading up to the finale, it was just leading up to something and then some random finale that we need. It was just pointless. And I'm not a big Deadpool fan. I didn't even see the Deadpool movie. I know enough about the character, and this doesn't bother me as much as it bothers other people, but you have a character that so many people love, and why would you ruin him? I just don't understand their thought process. You know, I think they're thinking like, oh, it'd be funny if we have this one character that everyone loves and we do something completely different. So it's kind of like ironic, like, you know, it would be funny, right? I guess that's what they were thinking. But that's what I gotta say about this movie. I've seen worse movies out there. Movies that are like, well, I'm seriously just sitting trying to watch and trying not to die of boredom. This one wasn't a good movie at all, but I was able to just watch it and not like fall asleep. It wasn't even entertaining. I was just like, oh, I have enough to follow, and I have enough to follow and enough that's okay that I can not be bored. But definitely not anything worth anyone's time. If you're watching like an X-Men marathon, maybe just put this one on for laughs and giggles. You know, I don't know. Apparently some people like this movie. I don't know why. I'll give it like a 3 or 4 out of 10. Because it could have been worse, but it's a bad movie. So next, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I don't know. I might do Independence Day Resurgence because that was supposed to be one of the worst movies of last year. If not, I'm going to talk about, I will definitely talk about this movie. It's the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. And we'll get to that later. And I don't know if I'm going to review all these, but I got this pack like a year or two ago. Of the like 50 horror movie classics, but they're not classics. They're all trash, but they're fun to watch because they're just so terrible. Like movies like Attack of the Giant Leeches and you know, stupid stuff like that. So I'm gonna try and watch all those. And I might review some of them if I have enough to say about them. So look out for that maybe. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.